Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
And I'm delighted to see as many of you as are here this holiday weekend. I know many people plan to go out of town and catch up with longtime friends and families. They consider this a holiday to celebrate. And it is. But today I want to bring across to you that let's not forget the reason we are celebrating. All right? Because that's important. We all love barbecue, but the reason behind the holiday is what we always need to remember. We are all, I know, familiar with the Star-Spangled Banner. We sing it at public events, or we listen to it being sung at public events. And there are varying ways that celebrities have chosen to express their emotion when they sing this at a public event. Most of us are familiar with the first verse. It's a difficult song to sing, and the first verse kind of sums it up, and most people kind of quit there. But if you'd like to follow along with me, and goodness no, I'm not going to attempt to sing it, on page 200 is our Star-Spangled Banner in the blue hymnals. And I would like to ask you to jump down to the third verse. Oh, thus be it ever when free men shall stand between their loved ones' homes and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heavens rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must when our cause is just, and this be our motto: in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. You know, as Americans, we are so extremely blessed. We hear a lot of criticism about our country from our own people and from many people of other countries. And yet, you know, we're obviously doing something right because so many people from across the world want to live here. Some of you may have had ancestors that were here forever. Some of you may have ancestors who came here from other countries as infants, as young adults, as parents of families. But people came here and people stay here because of what we offer. We do have more than so many nations. And we do receive a lot of criticism that we don't do more for other countries because we are perceived as being so wealthy and so blessed. And yet, let there be a catastrophe in any part of the world. And our government not only puts together things that can be done on a nation-to-nation level. Americans, one by one, do what we can to reach out as well. Now, it's not all one way, because when we had those terrible events of September 11th, other nations rose up in horror that such a thing could happen. Other nations did support us. We did receive assistance from people in other countries. If you know friends who live in other countries, I'm sure you received personal confirmation from them that their prayers were with us, individually and as a nation. I know I certainly did. But you know, this didn't just all happen. America didn't just happen. This particular holiday celebrates the very fact of our freedom the fact that people had come here from another country. They endured terrible hardships. Coming into a brand new land, they did not know what foods were edible, what was safe. They did not know what creatures or animals might be here, either to threaten them or to provide for them. And they established communities. They established small towns where people could work together to make it through the dreadful winters, to make it through horrible disease, to make it through famine. By coming together and reaching out to one another and helping one another, this country gradually grew. And then, as so often happens, along came the government. Well, wait a minute, you're still considered a part of this country, and we want you to start paying taxes. Never mind that the people here had worked so diligently to build a life, to build their home, to build their community. Now this country across the ocean was saying, well, you've got it, and we want a part of it. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? We didn't really have a voice in anything that was going on in that country, but we had goodies and they wanted part of it. Well, you know, perhaps because those people had struggled so hard and worked together to start building this nation, maybe they had enough gumption that they said, no, don't think so. We're just not going to roll over belly up. And there was the Revolutionary War. A lot of names were affiliated with that war. And you know, one of the ones that most everybody hears and remembers is Benedict Arnold. I have to tell you, history was definitely not my favorite subject in school. And I think that's true of a lot of people. When you're in school, it all seems so old, it seems so far in the past. Why do we have to learn this? What's important about this? And I believe that those of us who felt that way then, as we became adults, really began to understand the importance of our history and to realize how this nation came together and the importance of keeping it together. Well, there's Benedict Arnold. And you know, by all accounts, he was a wonderfully intelligent military man. And he did accomplish some wonderful things until his ego got in the way. If you read the history, he was passed up for advancement. Others around him were being bumped up in the military. They were given more important titles, which usually brings more responsibility, but also usually more praise, more compensation. And he got really annoyed by that, and he absolutely threw away everything that he had fought for and decided to go to the other side. He took his knowledge that he had of this country and its military strategies, and he took it back to this other country and shared with them, so they knew so much that could undermine the people here. Ego. You know, what a legacy to have When people think of Benedict Arnold, they don't think of the good things he did for this country. They remember that he ended up a traitor. And to this day, that name sets off that memory. Someone mentions Benedict Arnold, you think traitor. And other people throughout history since that time have been referred to as just another Benedict Arnold. What a legacy. Wouldn't that be dreadful? And I can't help but wonder what kind of a legacy are each one of us going to be leaving? Thanks to the internet, you can Google your own name and it's kind of interesting what might come up. I was so surprised when someone told me that years ago. I said, what? They said, go ahead, put your own name. I said, I'm nobody. Well, put your own name in sometime. See what comes up. The world is expanding at such a rate. It is hard to maintain any measure of privacy. And that can be a very good thing, and that can be a pretty concerning thing. But you know, if you tell the truth, if you live the truth, then you don't have to worry. Many people think they can get by with a lot of things because nobody sees. Well, we certainly know that's not true. We certainly know infinite God is very aware. We know that our loved ones in spirit are aware. If we thought our own parents had eyes in the back of their head, well, what about our spirit guides, our guardian angels? Do we think we can actually pull the wool over their eyes? Oh, I don't think so. Our neighbors across the street moved, and it was kind of abrupt. But we know they moved just to another home in our same small town. They had a really nice garbage can. Quite new, quite intact. Not cracked and stained with paint and not missing a lid like many of ours. And they had just moved lock, stock, and barrel, and it was there out at the curb for trash collection on Friday, and Ron said, boy, we could use that can. I didn't even know about this until after the fact. He says, I really wanted that. And they've already moved. I really wanted that. I said, but I see it's still sitting over there. And he said, well, yeah, it's not mine to take. He's not a hero. He's a good person. But you know, someone else might have said, they've moved. It's sitting there, it got emptied. We really need it. These things cost money. Who would know? Who would care? We would know. We would care. I used to work, believe it or not, I used to work in offices, and it was always so interesting how many people would need a paper clip to take home. And they think, well, you know, it's just a box. It's just a little box of paper clips. The company will never know it's missing. I need a few sheets of paper. I have to copy a report tonight, and I need a few sheets of paper. But I go in the supply room, and oh my gosh, they've got boxes of reams of paper. If I just take one now, then I won't have to worry about stopping by the store. I won't have to worry about next time I'm running out. The company can afford it. When people came to one particular office, they always got a brand new stapler a brand new pair of scissors, a brand new 3-hole punch. They got all these things new. Usually some fancy set, not your basic industrial black, but if they wanted burgundy, they could get burgundy. If they wanted wood tone, they could get wood tone. And you know what? When that person left and the next person came to be in that office or that cubicle, there was not a stapler, there was not a 3-hole punch, there was not a pair of scissors. Poof! It just vanished. Some of these people made extremely good salaries, and yet they had this sense of entitlement. Well, I worked hard while I was here. I earned it. No, they didn't. They earned their salary. They earned whatever formal benefits were offered to them in a contract. They did not earn the right to help themselves to someone else's possessions. In this country today, it is a concern that so many people feel entitled to something that someone else earned, something that someone else paid for. This is not what freedom is all about. And as spiritualists, we know more than many people realize the importance of personal responsibility. We know that if we want something, we'd better work to earn it. We know that no matter how hard we work, sometimes it doesn't appear that we are getting what we feel we deserve. So does that mean we just take it anyway? Someone else has it, and maybe they earned it, or maybe we don't think they earned it, so we'll just help ourselves to that. Do you see, friends, that this separates us? When it becomes so much about me, what can I get? What can I have? I want it. What about the collective we? What about what made this country great? People working together. People helping one another. It's such an old-fashioned notion, isn't it? Working for something that you want. And people do go on and on about how difficult life is nowadays. And isn't it ironic we have all these wonderful time-saving things, and yet we seem to be busier than ever. And we seem to be withdrawing more and more from others. People say big churches can offer so much, so many activities, and it's true. That's true. I've been to some big churches where they do have all kinds of the latest gadgets, and they put on services that are more like performances. So they can offer all these things. But as small as this church is, I've seen how our congregation, whether you're a member or not, or whether you just attend fairly regularly, I have seen how this congregation reaches out to one another. As spiritualists, we believe it is our personal responsibility not to work so the government can snatch it all away and give it to whom they deem necessary, because frankly we can all earn only so many dollars. And we are not a big enough church to have a wonderful bottomless fund that we can reach into to help others. But when there has been a specific need, in this church, and that need becomes known, people who work very hard for what they have are some of the first to say, well, you know what, I was going to do this. I was going to go out with some friends. But you know what? I don't have to do that. Here, take this money and give it to so-and-so. People will say, oh my gosh, this member's home was demolished in a fire. That did happen. And okay, the Red Cross came in and helped with emergency housing for 1 or 2 nights. But the people of this church opened their homes to that individual and said, you can stay as long as you need to. Others came up with clothing. Can you imagine if your home was just taken just like that with a fire? And I hope none of you have had that experience. But if you did, you don't even have a toothbrush, let alone clothes, let alone anything else that's important to you. And as tiny as this church is, members of this church brought in some of their own clothing that was in good condition, or if they had the means, took that individual shopping so that she could pick out some of her own things. And then, because she was living by necessity with someone else in the church, a lot of people within the church took food over to the host family because, you know, adding another person added to their electric bill, their water bill, their food bill. People worked together. And that's what makes this church so special. That's what makes America special. Once upon a time, you could depend on family to do this. Many generations often shared the same home or the same property, where each individual family may have their own small home. They were there for one another. And nowadays we don't see that so often. People, for one reason or another, live in far scattered parts of our country and sometimes the world. And so we don't have that family, that blood tie family that can help. And yet we see it within our church family. We are here for one another just as Spirit is always here for us. Dreadful things happen, and some people will say, why me? Why me? And they'll sit back and wait for the pity. Others have that strength within that will say, yes, I am rocked to my core. I never expected this to happen to me. But with God's help, I will survive. And these people do. That's how many, many thousands of people survived the Holocaust. That's how many, many thousands of people have survived wars in our country and in other countries. Life gives us a choice. Every moment of every day, we have choices. We can choose to embrace and strengthen our relationship with God, which in turn will get us through anything and everything. Or we can choose to let it all go until there's a crisis and then say, poor me. You all made a choice. Today you chose to come to a spiritualist church service where you know you can receive spiritual healing, where you know you can receive upliftment and guidance and encouragement, not only from the speaker of the day, but from one another. You made a choice to come here, hoping perhaps that you'll receive a greeting from a loved one in spirit. Many of you have made choices to be here for our classes and our circles because there's this hunger within. You want to learn more. You want to learn about God, and you want to open that tightness in your chest and in your heart. You want to open this to God, knowing that as you do so, all the pieces of the puzzle will start fitting together. And that's what it's all about. We're only human. We don't always understand why this piece seems to be missing, or why these two pieces aren't going together the way we think they should. But when you have God in your heart, you can always go within and ask. And you will receive that assurance. You will receive that knowledge, that knowing, that whatever you're facing, you're not facing it alone. Do you know what a difference that makes? We can deal with anything when we know God is within, God is with us. So I appreciate that you came this holiday weekend to our church service. And rather it's very familiar faces that we're seeing as we look around, or rather it may be new faces. Let us go forth and celebrate this holiday weekend, not forgetting to give thanks for all of those people who have given us the freedom to attend whatever church we want, to worship God as we feel we want to and need to, without having to hide in someone's attic to do so. Don't ever, ever take your freedoms for granted. Acknowledge them every day and give thanks for them every day. And give thanks to those who made it possible for us to do so. Thank you.